The Galaxy S24 Plus and the iPhone 15 Pro might not be Samsung and Apple's best of the best camera systems, since there are the Galaxy S24 Ultra and the iPhone 15 Pro Max. But these phones still belong in Samsung and Apple's newest flagship tier of phones. Both start at $999 and have triple lens camera systems with 3x telephoto. The iPhone has a bit of a technical edge here with log video capability and capturing images at 24 megapixel default versus the Galaxy's 12 megapixel default, but at the same starting price from the two biggest phone OEMs in the world, I got really curious about testing these two phone camera systems against each other and seeing which one actually takes better photos and videos. Before we go over the results, quick reminder to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos like this. It really helps out the channel. So starting off with perfect daylight conditions outdoors, both phones obviously do a really great job with capturing detail and color reproduction. As you can expect, there are slight differences with the post-processing, where in some shots the Galaxy produces slightly higher exposure, highlights, and shadows. The iPhone sometimes has a bit of a blue tint, while the Galaxy sometimes has more of a purple tint. But it really surprised me on how similar most of the shots looked in terms of the detail, color reproduction, saturation, and vibrance levels. This is actually true for both the main lens and the 3x telephoto. The online discourse is always about how different iPhone and Samsung photos are, but this year, at least in daylight, the post-processing styles seem to be very similar. After taking a lot of shots though, there are some consistent differences. The iPhone photos have a little bit more depth, making for higher quality portraits, but the iPhone surprisingly sharpens details a little more than the Galaxy. Usually Samsung is a culprit for over sharpening, but the Galaxy seemed to be going for more of a softer look this time around. I also noticed that the Galaxy tended to do a better job with handling contrast, saturation, and balancing strong light sources. The iPhone seems to always want to even out all the light sources, sometimes making more bland and murkier photos. This also goes for handling skin tones, where I found the Galaxy doing a better job portraying accurate skin tones on camera. But the iPhone did tend to be more of a reliable shooter because of the better stabilization. Both camera systems have OIS, but the iPhone shot clearer images if my hand was shaking or if the subject was moving around a lot. But for the selfie camera, I did prefer the Galaxy here. It captured my skin tone and the background colors more accurately. The iPhone tended to over sharpen details, which over highlights a lot of imperfections, hair strands, and all that, making selfies less flattering. As for 4K video in daylight using the main lens, the level of detail is actually very similar between the two phones. iPhone does seem to have slightly better video stabilization, and the Galaxy seems to be a little bit more jumpy, especially with the constant exposure adjustments. I will say that the Galaxy had much better dynamic range, capturing the scene more accurately. But for the 3x footage, there is no contest here. Stabilization, level of detail, and depth are noticeably much better on the iPhone compared to the Galaxy. As for the selfie video, stabilization was about the same between the two phones, but I did prefer the iPhone's wider angle and less grainy footage. But like the selfie stills, I did like the lighting and color balancing on the Galaxy more than the iPhone. Then moving on to slightly more challenging conditions indoors, it is more of a win for the iPhone. It was able to noticeably capture more detail and still provide more depth in the photos compared to the Galaxy. iPhone also did a better job balancing the harsh contrast between the dark indoors and the strong daylight from the outside. When there is a lot of daylight coming in indoors, I think the Galaxy does capture more interesting photos with better contrast and more appealing color reproduction, but in slightly tougher conditions, the Galaxy experienced more grain in the photos. The iPhone just captured much cleaner photos and got the scene a lot more accurately than the Galaxy. Just like the rear shots, with enough light, the selfie results were basically on par between the two phones, and I actually prefer the Galaxy in these situations. But when there are harsher lighting conditions indoors, the iPhone was much more consistent most of the time. Same goes for video recording. The iPhone recorded cleaner, less grainier video footage than the Galaxy for both the rear and the front facing cameras. The colors and the lighting almost look identical between the two phones, but the clip-to-clip consistency and the level of detail were much more reliable on the iPhone. Finally, moving on to the most challenging environment, low light. In terms of the main lens, the Galaxy tended to do a much better job with color reproduction, contrast, and light balance. The iPhone really seemed to freak out in these situations, producing very murky, overly contrasted photos using the main lens. Maybe it's just a software bug, because the iPhone's 3x optical shots look much better and it did capture more detail compared to the Galaxy's 3x optical shots. At 5x or 10x, the results from both phones are pretty much unusable in the nighttime or super low light conditions, but like how I mentioned before, I like how the Galaxy tends to soften details where the iPhone goes the other direction of over sharpening. As for the selfie stills, both phones did as well as they could for low light photos. Totally different color tones and styles here, but both got me pretty clearly, and it's really a toss up of which one I prefer. Then for video recording, there's more noticeable lens flare on the iPhone, but I much preferred its video stabilization and auto exposure adjustments over the Galaxy's. The 3x results are closer between the two phones and they're not very usable, but I will say that the iPhone does a slightly better job in recording less grainy footage. As for selfie video recording, both are not good during the nighttime. Stabilization was about the same, but I guess the iPhone footage is slightly more usable compared to the Galaxy. So after looking at all these results, I can say that the cameras on the Samsung Galaxy S24 Plus and the iPhone 15 Pro definitely have some noticeable differences in strengths and weaknesses. In good to great lighting conditions, I generally prefer the still photos coming from the Galaxy. They capture the mood and the vibe of the subjects and the environment more appealingly and accurately compared to the shots coming from the iPhone. But for any harsher lighting conditions and for video recording in all environments, the iPhone did have a much more reliable camera system with a higher level of detail and stabilization. Alright guys, that's going to do it for this video. Let me know in the comments who you think won this camera comparison and which phone you prefer as a whole. If you like this video, I'd really appreciate it if you could like it and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next video.